many purposes that have drawn us here today. Among these is to establish our own medical society, through which we might share the means and results of our medical practices.
December 18th, 1794. The United States Arms Hotel in Worcester, Massachusetts. 41 physicians, most of whom rode on horseback to get there, assembled under the leadership of Dr. Ebenezer Morse to form the Worcester District Medical Society. Only one of the 41 had ever so much as attended a medical lecture, but they wanted to ensure that those entering the profession would develop skills through apprenticeship with a respectable physician or training in a school of medicine. This proud day marked the beginning of one of America's first medical associations, the beginning of a sharing of knowledge and experience among physicians, availability of proper training, and examination to ensure proper standards. Of course, it all began with individuals working in virtual isolation who were determined to find ways to relieve pain and suffering. Doctors of the 18th century had to battle disease before human physiology was well understood, before the causes and transmission of contagious diseases were identified. They generally avoided the practice of major surgery and treated most illnesses with concoctions of substances derived from plant leaves, roots, bark, minerals, and alcohol. Dr. Edward Flint, one of those fortunate enough to benefit from an apprenticeship, said, "I began my training as a physician and surgeon at the age of 16 with Dr. Simon Tufts of Grafton. My apprenticeship lasted for 4.5 years and cost my Uncle Edward £500 for my board and tuition. I was taught the art of regulating the blood, phlegm, urine, and black and yellow bile within my patient, the proper balance of which is the essence of good health. I was at last given a certificate of proficiency and a pocket set of surgical instruments. In my practice, it was usual to extract by the knife or the leech any excess blood. Purging, sweating, and the use of cathartics could be used to rid other fluid excesses from my patients." By 1775, there were about 3,500 practicing physicians in the colonies. Only about 300 had medical degrees, a few graduating from prestigious Philadelphia Medical College, others training in European medical schools, where, incredibly, experience in treating patients was neither required nor offered. The establishment of the Worcester District Medical Society in 1794 allowed physicians in the county to share knowledge and treatments of disease and better cope with the following year's epidemics of smallpox, dysentery, and malaria. Medical ethics also became a consideration among members like Dr. John Green, descendant of Dr. Thomas Green, probably Worcester's first resident physician. An eccentric and beloved character, he drove his gig through the streets of Worcester County, serving as doctor and dentist to many. He held every elected position in our Worcester District Medical Society and also served as vice president of the American Medical Association. The extensive library he amassed contributed to the Worcester Free Public Library and helped to make the Worcester District Medical Society Library among the best in the country. Another legacy of his perhaps macabre sense of humor and consumer beware philosophy was the skull and crossbones seal of his bookplate, which he offered as the official seal of the society. Retained until recently, it served to remind that despite goodwill and humane intentions, physicians do not have safe and effective means of curing all ills. They must always be acutely aware of the consequences of their treatment of patients and their responsibility to work together to solve the mysteries of pain and disease. By the end of the next century, physicians of the Worcester District Medical Society were well established, both in the annals of medicine and in the history of our country. Our members' sense of social responsibility had become a tradition, and Dr. Homer Gage carried it to an international level. Respected and admired as an outstanding physician and surgeon, he also served as executive officer of Worcester Polytechnic Institute, the U.S. Army Surgical Corps, Worcester Community Chest, 2 surgical associations, and Compton and Knowles Loomworks Company. The benefits of his involvement extended even to Europe when he and his wife facilitated the construction of a dormitory for 250 American students at the University of Paris in 1928. A few years later, he explained, as one grows older and reaches the time when reminiscence is inevitable, one finds oneself constantly looking back upon the real satisfactions that one has derived from his all too short sojourn on Earth. These are not to be found in the money one makes, nor the luxuries he has enjoyed, pleasurable as both may be. One finds them in the things he's been able to do to make life easier and happier for his friends, his neighbors, and his community. Another jewel in Worcester's medical crown was Dr. May Salona Holmes. While women were generally discouraged from the profession, she graduated in 1896 from the Women's Medical College in New York City and became one of the Worcester District Medical Society's most courageous and revered physicians. She had had grave concerns about the ways in which milk was prepared on farms and wondered how people drank it and lived. In 1923, her worst fears were realized when she was called to her hometown of Lee, Massachusetts, to treat an epidemic of milk-borne septic throat.
Nearly 1/4 of the population of the town were stricken with this deadly disease. I got the call for help at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. By 9 o'clock that evening, I and a team of 20 volunteer nurses, all from Worcester, arrived at Lee. We organized the gathering of beds and cots, blankets, sheets, sterilizing boilers, and other equipment that the town could hastily collect, and set up an emergency hospital in their high school. For 8 days, my fearless and untiring nurses fought to control the pain and potentially lethal fevers of more than 900 patients. Nearly everyone recovered.
For the past 2 centuries, the Worcester District Medical Society has fostered shared knowledge, communication, and support among our physicians. More than 20 hospitals were built, and more are planned. Our Worcester Society provided the Massachusetts Medical Society with 7 presidents, created a city health department with a diphtheria and tetanus laboratory, and opened the Massachusetts Medical Society physician membership to women. Dorothea Dix of Worcester implemented the humane care of the insane in our first state hospital. Several medical institutions began regular publishing of medical journals. During World War II, the Society's library and a laboratory for collecting and processing blood plasma operated within the same building. Clara Barton from Oxford founded the American Red Cross. Oxford-born Dr. Elliot P. Joslin developed treatments for diabetes, and Dr. William Morton from Charlton first demonstrated the use of sulfurous ether as a surgical anesthesia.
The most important interface for society and medicine is high-quality health care at a community level. The scientific achievements in medicine in the past 40 years have been outstanding. We have witnessed the elimination of diseases such as smallpox and poliomyelitis. We have heralded new drugs to manage those suffering from intractable pain. We have restored the vision for millions, and technological accomplishments, including organ transplantation surgery, has been spectacular. I am particularly proud of the role the Worcester District Medical Society has played in improving the community's health, and would like to cite an example. In 1963, the Worcester District Medical Society's physicians and spouses purchased live oral polio vaccine in order to immunize the community. On 3 timed occasions, Sundays, the public schools were opened and the vaccine was given to everyone. Thousands of people came and the entire community was immunized. We charged 25 cents per dose and found ourselves with $14,000 left over after expenses. The money belonged to the community, so the Worcester District Medical Society established a scholarship fund. Through the effort of its chairperson, Dr. Bert Gutterman, now 30 years later, the scholarship fund exceeds $500,000 and an increasing number of medical students receive financial assistance. What a wonderful story. Throughout the past 200 years, a trusting patient-physician relationship has been the formula for high-quality medical service. It has and it will endure.
As the Worcester District Medical Society enters its 3rd century of service to the community, We're grateful for the research and educational contributions of institutions like the Worcester Foundation for Experimental Biology and the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And most of all, we're grateful to our members, the physicians whose efforts and skills have enabled us to live longer, healthier lives.